Hello and welcome to Two Tiers Deep, the Women's Cricket Weekly Show, with me, Rosa Simpkin.
And me, Chloe Hill.
I'm the journalist working in all the tiers of women's cricket.
And I'm the cricketer currently playing in the game.
We saw a gap in the market, mainly from a Tier 2 coverage perspective. So we thought, why not start a podcast? To start with, we probably should explain something to you, which otherwise, none of this will make any sense. Last year, the ECB announced Project Darwin, a project to hand the game back to the 18 counties, split into 3 tiers. Tier 1 is the professional level, consisting of the Blaze, Durham, Essex, Lancashire, Hampshire, Somerset, Surrey and Warwickshire. I could go into the depths about why the Blaze aren't Notts, but we'll leave that for another time.
And Tier 2 counties are made up of Derbyshire, Glamorgan, Gloucestershire, Kent, Leicestershire, Middlesex, Northamptonshire, Sussex, Worcestershire and Yorkshire.
And then Tier 3 are the national counties. Before we get started on today's episode, I'd like to give a shout out to our leading partner, Her Game 2. Her Game 2 Cricket partnered the Rose Talks Ball podcast and all the branches of the show, including Two Tiers Deep. Her Game 2 aims to spread a message of hope and equality throughout sport. Initially only in football, they have recognised that discrimination towards women and girls in sport is not limited only to football, so they have expanded into other sports, including cricket, where they can support, encourage and inspire women in the game. If you'd like to find out more about the work they are doing, you can find them online through their website, hergame2.co.uk/cricket, or you can find them on social media by searching for Her Game 2 Cricket. Thank you as always to Her Game 2 for their support of the podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Two Tiers Deep podcast. This week, things are slightly different as there's no Tier 1 cricket because of the 100, so our focus will mainly be on Tier 2 with a slight look at the 100. On today's show, some exciting news from the playing half of the Two Tiers Deep duo, an in-depth review of the 2026 schedule changes with our opinions, a look at the last 2 game weeks of the Tier 2 Metro Bank One Day Cup and the current standings, a look at the 100 so far, teams of the week, and so much more. Just a slight disclaimer, this episode might be a bit of a funny one because we are both absolutely knackered. We're recording this at 9 p.m. and Chloe, what have you been up to?
I think I've just been at too many cricket grounds the past 3 weeks and not had a day to myself to chill out and relax. I'm either coaching a cricket match, Pathway, which it's been great, or I'm either playing or I'm travelling. But I can't complain, but I am just so exhausted.
And on that note, you've made a move in the Tier 2 world of cricket. You have joined Northants on loan. Congratulations are in order.
Thank you.
How's it been so far?
Yeah, really good. I mean, I probably won't go into the in-depths of at the moment of why I've gone on a loan to Northants. But yeah, absolutely loved it. The team environment, the coaches. I'm just back playing cricket with a big smile on my face, and that's where I want to be at, and being out in the middle and performing and doing what I do best. So yeah, for me personally, yeah, really happy move.
What's your impression been of the squad and coaching setup so far? Because obviously, I mean, I assume you know Anisha Patel a bit from your time with the Sparks, but as a whole, it's quite a new group.
Yeah, I think that's the most exciting thing. Like, it's quite a young group. Obviously, me and Anisha bring the age up quite a bit. But no, it's such an exciting group with so many exciting players coming through who should be breaking into Tier 1 sides in the next few years, really. The coach and staff have been brilliant. David Ripley, ex-wicketkeeper, and been around the men's professional game for so long. So, yeah, he knows what he's on about, and I can trust what he says to me. And yeah, like the training sessions and the environment as a whole, it's just been really fun and enjoyable, and I'm definitely getting the best out of it that I can get.
Is there anything in particular you're looking forward to? I mean, we're in the closing stages of this season, but Northants are still, we'll get into this more later, but Northants are still very much in a fight for a semi-final space.
Yeah, I think the two positive results that we've had this side of the T20 comp. So we've come straight back with 2 wins back to back. And I think that was so crucial. Two good wins with both a bonus point in each game. So yeah, being in a position we are right now, I think it's quite exciting to look forward to, I guess, potential finals days or semi-finals and stuff like that for a tier 2 side to get to in their first year. Is really exciting. And I guess on another note, it's always great to be higher than Yorkshire on the table when Yorkshire are meant to be that fully professional side team. So yeah, I think all in all, just looking forward to hopefully reaching a finals day with Northants.
When we were planning this podcast, we thought it was going to be a very quiet one, given there's not much tiered cricket. However, the ECB threw a curveball and have announced some massive 2026 schedule changes. To give some context, a review into the white ball domestic structure led by the counties in consultation with the ECB and PCA recommended changes with focus on player welfare and the competition narrative. There have also been changes to the men's Vitality Blast, but that is, of course, not our focus. An important note before we explain the changes is in 2026, Yorkshire will join Tier 1, which means there will be 9 teams in each division. And then in 2027, Glamorgan will go up to Tier 1, meaning 10 in Tier 1 and 8 in Tier 2. First of all, looking at the changes in the Vitality Blast and Tier 1. The group remains the same as this season, with the addition of York. Each county will play 12 group stage matches, 6 home and 6 away. They will play 4 counties twice and 4 counties once. More on that later. And then at the conclusion of the group stages, the top 4 counties will progress to Women's Vitality Blast Finals Day, which will include 2 semi-finals and the final, up from the 2-game finals day we saw this year. And also in Tier 2,
it's 1 group, and in this we lose Yorkshire, who move into Tier 1. Each counties will play 8 group stage matches, 4 home and 4 away. They will play each county either home or away, which I guess we'll get into a little bit later. The top 3 counties at the end of the group stages will progress to the Vitality Blast Women's League 2 Finals Day, which will include an eliminator and a final, which is different to the finals day that we had this year, which I guess that we can discuss a little bit more now.
I mean, the first thing I'd ask you from your perspective as a Tier 2 player is we're making the switch from this year in Tier 2 Blast, there was a North and a South group. Whereas next year it's 1 group. Does that raise potential travel issues, especially given your player body isn't professional with availability, if players are having to travel that far for non-professional games?
Do you know what? I actually probably didn't think of it like that, but yeah, 100%. Being split in the North and South group and obviously traveling to teams, I guess, that were closer to you and you knew that you were playing them home and away, whereas now you literally could be traveling from one side of the country to the other just to play 1 T20 match. And let's be honest, even when Worcestershire were in the North group and we were travelling to Headingley, you're playing 1 T20 match. It's a long way to go for that. So if you think about Glamorgan having to travel all the way down south to Sussex just for 1 match, not being split into the groups, then yeah, I think it potentially might cause teams to struggle maybe to get their best 11 out week in, week out. But on the other hand, if I'm playing devil's advocate, people have got the taste for Tier 2 now. So if they want to commit, they will.
I mean, I covered a game at Derbyshire earlier on in the season, and it was a double header with the men, and it was on a Friday. And I spoke to their captain, Adriana Darlow, after the match, and she was like, you see, the issue we have is we've got players who work full time. Like, they can't just get a day off on a Friday to play a game of cricket. She said, I'm lucky enough that my employer is very understanding and lets me take time off, but obviously all the girls aren't in that situation. So it'll be interesting to see where the fixtures actually fit and if there's like a sensible order to them to make it work, or whether it's just a bit of a free-for-all.
Yeah, I think realistically, with Tier 2, the T20 games need to be played on the weekend. But I guess that opens up then more discussions for growing the women's club game in England as well, which I know probably has suffered on the back of all the 3-tier systems. But I guess we're stuck between a rock and a hard ship of where do we want the women's game to go? Do we sacrifice club cricket to make sure we get a really strong tier system, or do we try and play the tier 2 matches in the week and then you're not getting your best 11 out? And I think in reality, if you want to be playing in tier 2, they've got to make it as available as possible or as accessible as possible to all the players who I guess have full-time jobs.
And having a look at tier 1, one of the things that really stood out to me when this announcement was made is that tier 1 has lost 2 T20 games in a T20 World Cup year, and as the more popular format from a spectator point of view, this feels like a slightly odd decision.
Yeah, it's also quite surprising as well, considering you're adding another team into the mix. You thought there'd be 2 more matches, not 2 less matches. So yeah, it's interesting because you also want to prepare, and I guess the England players in this T20 blast to be playing as much cricket as possible leading up to the T20 World Cup, and also giving the best possibility to maybe a new name who might come out in the summer from this Vitality blast. I mean, we all obviously hear throughout the seasons of the scheduling is always an issue with the players and the travelling. And I know obviously when we spoke to Bri the other week on the podcast, she was saying how they travelled up north for one game, I think maybe up to Durham, and then they had to travel all the way back to Oval to play the next day. So they were travelling overnight. So I mean, if you are reducing the 2 matches, I hope the scheduling is a lot better for them in terms of travelling and their rest days between the games.
Another odd one. Obviously, with Yorkshire coming up to tier 1, we have the same number of teams in tier 1 and tier 2. Yet in tier 1, the top 4 are qualifying for finals day, and in tier 2, the top 3 are qualifying for finals day. A flip of what happened this season. And you've got to ask what the logic is behind that, given there's the same number of teams in each tier.
Yeah, I'm absolutely baffled by that. And I do wonder whether someone or the ECB has spoken to the tier 1 players, because just again, when we spoke to Bryony Smith on the podcast the other week, her opinion of finals day is that if you finish top of the table, you should be rewarded straight into that final, not the top 4 having to battle it out and do a long day. Yeah, it's interesting, but again, if they're wanting to run that tier 1 structure the same as how they run the men's and have the four teams at finals day, and as long as they stick to it, we can't keep changing it every year. And I think that's sort of probably where people are starting to get a little bit fed up with it's things aren't staying the same. And I'm a little bit confused now why tier 2 has then changed to whoever finished top goes straight to the finals. Just have tier 1 and tier 2 finals there exactly the same. It's going to make life so much easier.
It also makes it so much easier for people to follow. This is the other big thing, because one of the reasons Project Darwin happened, one of the many reasons, was that regional cricket just didn't work because no one knew what was going on apart from those involved in it. I mean, again, when we had Bryony on, she was saying that people would just call them the Surrey Stars and you'd be like, fine, you're close enough. But also on tier 1, there's also this random mechanical almost flaw of the random nature of the counties you play once or twice. Because as we've said, you play 4 counties twice and 4 counties once. That's going to be randomised. If you're a Somerset, who I'm picking on them because they didn't do particularly well next year, and you're in a situation where you've got to play Surrey and the Blaze twice, that puts you surely at an immediate disadvantage compared to maybe if you're Warwickshire and you've only got to play them once.
Yeah, I think it's going to be extremely interesting how this draw, how the fixtures are going to be done. and like hopefully they come out early enough for us to digest and see and maybe find out the answers of how they done it. Because completely agree, like if you finish bottom of that, if you finish bottom of the tier one Vitality Blast this season, you certainly don't want to be playing the top two teams twice next year, having a massive disadvantage with how the ECB have just randomly pulled some teams out of a hat and decided that's who you're playing. I wonder how it's going to be done.
But on the other hand, I guess the only fair way of doing it is to do it randomly. And that's the really difficult thing because no one's going to win. And it feels this is the issue with not just playing everyone twice. There is time in the schedule in the women's game because we don't have free tournaments. It feels, it's just baffling. It's baffling.
Yeah, and also I guess if the ECB actually look at the scheduling, you can play those extra two games, and you can, if you're going to play back to back days, just localize them. For example, like if it's Surrey, they're not having to travel too far. They can either play against one of the Midlands teams or Hampshire instead of having to go all the way up north to then come back all the way down. Localize your back to back days compared to when you've only got one game off with your travelling. They can be your longer distance travelling games. It's just going to be one of those and see how it goes. And realistically, we're probably going to have another change again next season. So we're going to be in the same situation again.
I mean, the thought I'd leave our discussion on the Blast with is they manage it in the hundreds. They manage to localize the order of the games to make sure that teams aren't traveling miles and miles game to game. But we'll leave that one open. Looking at the Metro Bank One Day Cup. In Tier 1, the group is the same as this season, once again, but with the addition of Yorkshire. And I feel like one thing I should say is a couple of people have asked me, are the Blaze going to be the Blaze next year? Yes, they are. And we're just going to leave them be because it's not worth our energy. In the Tier 1 Metro Bank One Day Cup, each county will play 16 group stage matches. That's up from 14 last season. Each county will play each other county at home and away. Now, this is where it gets interesting. We'll go into this more later. The top 3 counties at the end of the group stage will progress to the knockout stages. The top county progresses straight into the final to meet the winner of the eliminator between 2nd and 3rd place. And in Tier 2...
Again, the groups stay exactly the same, minus Yorkshire, who move up to Tier 1. Each county will play 8 group stage matches, 4 home and 4 away. The top 4 counties at the end of the group stage will progress to the knockout stages. The winners of the semi-finals will progress to the final.
A couple of talking points on this one. Chloe will note that on the document I've put this in all caps, bold, and very aggressively put a lot of question marks and exclamation marks. And I'm going to say it like that. 16 group stage matches. I'm 16 one-day cup matches. That's a lot of one-day cricket. They're trying to drive me insane, I swear.
Do you know what? It makes sense why they've removed 2 T20s just for 16 50 over matches. That's the reason behind it. But yeah, that is going to be a lot of cricket on the body. And again, I guess if we just reiterate what is happening in the summer next year, or what is happening next year, the T20 World Cup, why are we playing an awful lot of 50 over matches and reducing the T20? 16 group stage matches is a lot.
I honestly, and on the note of our next bullet point, I can already smell the outgrounds. And the other thing is, I'm concerned about the treatment of the Tier 1 counties in the One Day Cup compared to the Blast. And I'm going to raise Surrey. They have not, and are not going to, play any One Day Cup games at the Oval this season. Yes, they played all of their Blast games there, but they've not played any One Day Cup games there. And also the social media exposure in the Blast from the counties has been significantly better than in the One Day Cup. And it just feels like we've got this format where you had 6,000 people in at a finals day, expecting more if the Women's Euros wasn't on the same day. And you're taking cricket away from that to add to a tournament that people aren't going to go and watch to the same level.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Social media throughout that T20 blast between tier one and tier two, to be honest, was 10 times better than when it was the One Day Cup. And I don't know the reason for it, whether it's obviously T20 is meant to be that short, fast, entertaining match. And I guess they can clip or post more on social media instead of posting little drifts and drabs over the One Day Cup stuff. I guess it's just trying to, for me, I guess for looking at it, they're probably just trying to track that audience to love the game and follow the county.
I'm reading my next bullet point, and you can tell I was tired when I made this document because it I think we've definitely already said it, but both tier one and tier two are still one group and everyone plays everyone. There's the most obvious piece of analysis Rosa Simpkin has ever ever revealed. But on a broader point, I think there's two questions. Do we need to keep messing with the women's game? And I feel like the ECB are obsessed with directly replicating the men's game. And there's a difference between aligning the counties that was necessary and feeling a need to replicate the men's schedule because women do not play multi-day cricket. We've got one less tournament. I'm not counting the county cup because that's a whole different can of worms. It just feels unnecessary.
I mean, the answer to your first question is yes, they do need to stop messing around with the women's structure because, I mean, I can't think to imagine how confusing it would be for not a cricketer, for just a fan who's following the game and thinking, well, they had a final like this year, but it's not the same next year. Or they're playing this match this year, but they're not doing that next year. And we've already gone through so many changes in the last, what, 6, 7 years, from the KSL to the regional. If you want to include the 100 in that, include the 100 in it, and then the new tier Project Darwin structure. Like, you've got to let the women's game settle for a few years before we keep constantly changing it. Otherwise, it's never ever going to settle.
100%. And on the note of the changes to the women's game, shall we have a look at some tier two cricket? There was no podcast last week because, as you've already gathered, we're too busy for life at the moment. So we've got a couple of game weeks to kind of explore. But first of all, some general talking points. And before we get into the technical side of things and how the table's looking, there was a moment in the Worcestershire-Gloucestershire game that went viral on social media. There was an umpiring decision for a caught behind that the keeper spilled. This is a whole different can of worms entirely, but do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm going to be, I guess, truthfully honest from this incident. When I saw that incident happen, I was quite disappointed from Worcestershire. Obviously, I guess, suppose currently still being a Worcestershire player, even though I'm on loan to Northants, but obviously playing at that club for nearly 9 years. Just the way that they actually went about that whole incident. Yes, you can obviously see when Jess Beach bowls the ball, she is blocking the umpire's view, but you can tell straight away from the wicketkeeper, first slip, the captain who was at mid-on, that they were turning away, they acknowledged it was dropped, and first slip signalled with her arms crossed saying not out. But then the umpires to go and have a conversation, and the captain and the keeper to not go and speak to the umpires, and I guess even, for instance, withdraw that appeal. For me, I think, yeah, that doesn't sit well with me. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's a really difficult one because obviously there was probably a lot going through everyone's minds on that pitch. It was a very unique situation and probably not one that either Meg Austin all the Worcester players have dealt with before. Because, you know, we've reached quite a sudden point with Tier 2 cricket that, yes, I'm aware that the umpiring probably wasn't great before, but it's never really been broadcasted before. It's not been streamed to the same degree. It's a very complex thing, isn't it? But don't get me wrong, umpires are humans, but it was a howler. And even if she couldn't see the decision, the square leg umpire should have been able to see whether it was out or not. It felt very odd. And I am disappointed that even if Skipper didn't see the incident, she had players who did. So I think one of those other players should have put their hands up and gone, that wasn't out. We should repeal that decision. And I mean, as you said, the first slip was literally calling a dead ball because they were like, it's not out, it's not out, it's not out. But yeah, it's definitely a very odd one.
Yeah, and I guess we're big on talking about the spirit of cricket and the spirit of the game, and you want to, by rights, get those wickets on merit and actually do it correctly. For me, I personally just want to congratulate Meg Austin for actually how she conducted herself, because any other batter in that situation, or I know certain people in that situation would have reacted 10 times differently. So for her to conduct herself in that manner and walk off the pitch and not retaliate in a way that probably 9 out of 10 people would, I think fair play to her. But I think, especially with these games being live streamed now, and the players on the pitch acknowledge that instant, I think they need to probably take a little bit of accountability and also help the umpires out with that decision when they're saying obviously they couldn't see it or something like that. But I think we've just got to work together a bit better and make sure we get the right outcomes next time.
Now, looking at Tier 2, we're not going to go into depth game by game analysis because a lot has happened and a lot of it isn't really relevant anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a roundup of the table and then just tell you who won their games. And then Chloe is going to go through what you have to look forward to this week. First of all, looking at the table, and it's a spicy one. Middlesex, off the back of a T20 Blast victory, no, off the back of winning the T20 Blast, top the One Day Cup table on 28 points. I feel like I should also say all the teams have played 6. Glamorgan followed them with 24 in second. Northants also on 24 in third. Yorkshire are down in 4th on 15 points. Back-to-back defeats for them in the last 2 in the last 2 game weeks against Middlesex and Glamorgan. In 5th, Worcestershire also sit equally on 15 points. In 6th, Sussex on 13. 7th, Gloucestershire on 13. 8th, there's a bit of a gap. Leicestershire with 5, then Kent with 5 in 9th, and then Derbyshire with no points from their 6 games, which is a sad time, and I do hope they get on the board by the end of the season. In terms of the action, on Saturday the 2nd of August, Northants, Glamorgan, Gloucestershire and Middlesex claimed victory, with Worcestershire joining in the fun on the Sunday. I warned you all that I would not be able to speak. Last week's game week, Gloucestershire, Chloe's Northants, Middlesex, Sussex and Glamorgan all claimed victories.
And coming up this week, on Saturday, we have Gloucestershire v Yorkshire, Kent v Glamorgan, Leicestershire v Middlesex, and on Sunday, we have Northants v Sussex, where I'll be at, and Worcestershire v Derbyshire. Now, let's move on to talk a little bit about the 100.
Now, the question is, would it be a talk about a tournament if it didn't include a slight Rosa rant? Some general talking points. And the first thing I really want to talk about, because it's genuinely upsetting me, the graphics. The graphics for this tournament are unbearable. They're slightly better than last year. We've no longer got the 2 annoying bars going down the side of the TV. But during the chase, it doesn't tell you what score the batting team's on. It just tells you how many runs they need. it doesn't tell you the bowler, like that the current set of deliveries, what's happened. There's this graphic where it comes up with the bottom with, so for example, Lauren Bell's speeds today. One end says slow, one end says fast, and it just puts circles on a row. What is that meant to tell me, Chloe? I understand that we're trying to like get new people into cricket and we want it to be simple, but it's not going to be helpful for those people if they then go and watch a different tournament and the scorecard is displayed completely differently.
I mean, the 100 wouldn't be the 100 without bright colours on your screen and loads of numbers and teams representing food companies. It's August, we're here, it's the 100. And if I'm playing devil's advocate again, as I think I've already done tonight, is I'm here for it. I love August. I love the 100. Cricket's on the telly every day of the week, and women's cricket is in the public's eye.
I mean, I feel like I should say the 100 is genuinely. I don't even care if this is controversial or not. One of my favorite times of the year, like the fact that there's top quality cricket every day. There's people actually watching women's cricket. You've just got Meg Lanning and Elise Perry playing each other. It's great. And even in the press box, in the press lounge, at each ground, we get the snacks that the teams are sponsored by. So at Edgbaston, we get Butterkiss popcorn. At Trent Bridge, we get Skips. Genuinely, like, if there's a way to my heart, it's good journalism snacks. So it's a great month for me.
Well, that's not fair. I didn't know. When I was with London Spirit and we were sponsored by Tyrrell's, I barely got a bag of Tyrrell's crisps. I mean, I can't knock the Lord's lunches I had though. I probably put on so much weight on the month of August with the Lord's lunches, so I think I'll take that any day of the week.
It's such a good. I love the 100. But another
Yeah.
thing that slightly concerned me with it this season, and I'm going to single out Sky here because the BBC have been brilliant. There's been a real lack of women on commentary, like a real lack of women in commentary. Natalie Germanos is here, and that's great because she is brilliant. Ebony is doing the occasional game. Lydia is doing the occasional game, which is a problem for other reasons. But it just feels like there's a lot of individuals working on women's cricket who aren't. They spend the whole time talking about men's cricket. And I feel like there are so many individuals who would love that opportunity. I'm sure there's a lot, maybe even some tier two players who don't play during the 100. Get Chloe on, come on now. There are so many individuals who would do so much research and do it such justice that it's such a shame that it's being misrepresented.
I completely agree with everything you just said there. And one thing that really, really winds me up is that most people who know me in the women's game know me that I'm quite a badger. I know the up and coming players. I know the experienced players. I know the women's game pretty much inside out. And I can't say who it is on comms at the time, but even when it's live on Sky Sports, I think it's one of the male commentators. The ball goes out to the deep, and they, for example, I'm going to say, "Oh, that's great fielding from Eva Gray." No, it's Danny Gibson, or it's someone else. Like the names, they're just calling people the wrong names, and I'm like, they're on the other side of the pitch. Like, how can you get it so confusing? I think one the other day in the Oval Invincibles, Phoebe Franklin did an unbelievable stop on boundary, and on comms, one of the guys was really like 100% committed to it. He's like, "That's an excellent stop by Joey Gardner." No, it's Phoebe Franklin. Just do your research. Come on.
Oh no, my favourite one. I was watching a Southern Brave game the other day, turned it on. The commentator called Lauren Bell Catherine Bell, and I immediately turned on the BBC. I was
Oh,
like, we're not doing this.
yeah,
And
what is
apparently,
going
Catherine
on?
Bell is a film star. And why
God.
is that relevant? I've never heard of her.
No,
Oh,
me either.
on a more positive note, though, the attendance has been incredible this season. On the opening day, there were over 15,000 at Lords, which is the record for a weekday for a women's game. At Southampton, they've broken their highest attendance with around 11,000. There were 12,000 at the game today at Lords. It's exactly what we need.
I feel like these numbers are growing every year, and the support for the women's game. This is when it first started, and the matches obviously were double headers, and the men played first and the women played second. People obviously were buying tickets, but they were never turning up for the women's match. They were turning up probably 50 balls left of the women's match, ready to get settled in for the men's match. Whereas now we're seeing people commit from the start of the women's match to the end of the men's match, and I think like it's just so great to see. And I guess obviously it's so good that you're actually getting some new eyes watching the women's game and thinking, wow, this is so exciting. And you're getting all of these international stars, like you've got Meg Lanning hitting the ball out the ground. And yeah, there's just some serious talent on show. And I'm so glad that people are actually coming to watch it and utilising their tickets that they brought to watch both games.
Now taking a look at the standings. In first place are Southern Brave on 12 points.
In second place is London Spirit, also on 12 points.
Then in third, something that makes me and Chloe both very happy, as they are predicted champions, Northern Superchargers. Oh my god, I can't speak. Northern Superchargers on 8 points.
And in fourth place is Manchester Originals, also on 8 points. I'm just copying you with every point.
Winsies. In fifth place are Oval Invincibles with 4 points.
In sixth place is Trent Rockets. And guess what? They're on 4 points.
And then, guys, you'd never predict this. In seventh place are Birmingham Phoenix, also on 4 points.
And sitting sadly at the bottom is Welsh Fire on 0 points. And obviously that's quite sad to see, really, considering how we've seen them progress over the last 2 years. But do you know what? There's still a lot of matches to go. I think we're going to see some changes in this table throughout the next week.
100%. And Welsh Fire makes me very sad because I predicted them to win in 2023. And then the Eliminator didn't happen. And then it was sunny and I was fuming. Predicted them to win in 2024. And they came to the final and they lost. I just want them to do well. They're sponsored by the best snack company in the tournament, Hula Hoops. I need my hula hoop girls to represent.
Do you know who Welsh Fire remind me of in the women's game?
I'm really scared about where this is going. Who do Welsh Fire remind you of in the women's game?
The Sunrisers in the regional game.
God, they are!
They are literally the Sunrisers. And look at this, like next year, 4 seasons in, Welsh Fire will win it next year. There's an early prediction.
I like the early prediction. I'm going to hold you to that.
Right. Now we have reached the most important part of this podcast, and I can't believe we've got here after this shambles episode. And if you're still listening, thank you so much. But we have just finally reached our Tier 2 Team of the Week. Would you like to start, Rosa, or would you like me to start?
I'm happy to kick things off.
Are you ready then? Over to you for your Tier 2 Team of the Week. Good luck.
I have never been less ready in my life, but let's do this. I don't think there's many names I can mispronounce, which is very exciting. Okay. Opening the batting, I've got a Tier 1 loanee, Abby Freeborn at Glamorgan, who scored a ridiculous 108 not out the other day. 2, I've got Pippa Sprout from Middlesex. At 3, I've got Bryony Gilgrass from Worcestershire. She's also my captain. Knocks of 80 and 46 and also a wicket. At 4, I've got Kiara Green of Sussex. Wickets and runs. At 5, and my wicketkeeper, I've got Katie Jones of Gloucestershire, who's on loan from Somerset. She was ridiculous with the gloves. 4 catches and 2 stumpings. At 6, I've got Megan Sturge of Kent. 2 good totals. At 7, Chloe Scouten of Gloucestershire. Is she on loan from Somerset? She is on loan from Somerset. I totally know what's going on. She took 7 wickets in 2 games. Ridiculous. At 8, I've got Izzy Routledge of Middlesex. I mean, I'd like to highlight her bowling figures here. 4 for 36 from 9.5. But the thing that impressed me most, 0 for 2 from 3 overs. Ridiculous. At 9, Ria Fackrell of Yorkshire, runs and wickets. At 10, I don't know why she's batting so low, so I'd really like to apologise to her. Gemma Marriott is batting below Ria Fackrell. Gemma, I am so sorry. She is in for a bowling though. 3 for 2 from 1.3 overs. Nice. And another wicket. At 11, Anisha Patel of Northants, your teammate and captain. 6 wickets. And then I'd like to give some shout outs to Anna Buckle, Georgina Kant, Becky Brooker, Claire Boycott, Anna Buckle. Oh, I've got Anna Buckle written down twice. And Ania Patel. That was a shambles. Over to you, Chloe.
Do you know what? I'm slightly disappointed that I have not made your tier 2 team of the week. How rude.
Yeah. That is rude of me.
Jokes, there was better players than me this weekend, it's fine. Right, so I think we have a few similar people, but my tier 2 team of the week is opening the batting. I've got Amelia Kemp from Northants. I'm going to let the viewers see the post with the stats at the end instead of me rattling them all off right now. Coming at 2, opening the batting for is Becca Halliday from Gloucestershire. Coming at 3, also on loan from Tier 1, same player, Abby Freeborn from Glamorgan, that you have got. Coming in at 4, Bryony Gilgrass from Worcestershire. At 5, Georgia Camp from Gloucestershire. 6, and my wicketkeeper, Pippa Sproul. I'll let her have the gloves this week over me, it's fine. 7, Jess Woolston from Yorkshire. Coming in at 8, again, shout out to Chloe Skelton for those ridiculous figures from those 2 games. And also, she contributed with the bat, 40-something in one of the games as well. 9, coming at 9, Olivia Barnes, who is with Kent, but she's also on loan from Somerset. Coming at 10, Ava Lee from Sussex. My captain coming at 11, Anisha Patel from Northants. And then I've got 2 12ers. I've got Izzy Routledge from Middlesex and Jessica Cusa from Derbyshire. But yeah, there's actually too many to give a shout out to this week. I wrote so many names down, and I think there were so many bowlers that got 3 wickets and above, and there was a few 40s, 50s that I just couldn't fit everyone in this week. And I'm sorry, but you all did well the past 2 games, but that's my tier 2 team of the week.
It was actually quite different, you know, and there were a lot of people you mentioned there who I also was like, oh, maybe they should be in there. But I love seeing Abby Freeborn doing well. She had a bit of a rocky season with Warwickshire. Didn't get much game time in the Blast, but I mean, you'll know as much as I do. She's a bloody good player, so I'm very pleased that she is getting some good game time in tier 2. Now, in order to highlight some of the main performers in the 100 so far, we've put together a cheeky little team of the tournament so far. This was hard. I think everyone's represented. But at this point, I mean, if you're still here, God knows. Okay. Opening the batting, Aussie superstar Meg Lanning, who is with the Oval Invincibles. She's a top run scorer with 177 runs. Coming in at 2, Davina Perrin with the Northern Superchargers. She's the 5th highest run scorer, and she scored a classy 70 not out from 40 odd deliveries the other day. At 3, it's only the GOAT, Nat Sciver-Brunt of the Trent Rockets. She's the 4th highest run scorer and reached 1,000 runs in the 100, the first women's player to do so. At 4, it's only our big hitter Grace Harris with London Spirit. She's the 2nd highest run scorer and has, unsurprisingly so, has the highest strike rate in the tournament. At 5, again, she's batting quite low, but she's versatile. Danny White-Hodge of the Southern Brave, 3rd highest run scorer. At 6, for her bowling, Hayley Matthews with 5 wickets. At 7, Emma Arlott with 6 wickets of the Birmingham Phoenix, and Hayley Matthews, I should add, is of the Welsh Fire. I don't know if I said that or not. If I did, I'll take it out. At 8, I mean, she's having a ridiculous season, and I love her to bits. Mahika Gore for the Manchester Originals. She's only taken 3 wickets, but she's been incredibly economical. She took 2 for 10 of her 20 in their last game. At 9, Freya Davies of the Welsh Fire for 5 wickets. At 10, Hannah Baker of the Birmingham Phoenix for 5 wickets. At 11, Lauren Bell with the Southern Brave, top wicket taker with 7. And I've got 3 shout-outs for 12. Charlie Knott of the London Spirit, Tilly Courtine-Coleman, the Southern Brave, and Eva Gray of London Spirit. And by some miracle, Chloe, we got through the podcast. I am running on about 3 hours sleep. You've played a kind of a 50 over game today. It's been a wild one.
Yeah, I've driven all the way back from Somerset today, 3 hours in the car without a break. I'm ready to have a good sleep and go again tomorrow. I've got a charity cricket match tomorrow, so guess what? More cricket. So maybe Saturday I'll have a lie-in.
I can confirm I will be having a line tomorrow, but I will be rooting for you in your charity game. That is all from us this week, and we promise you next week we'll... Actually, I'm not going to make any promises. We'll try to be slightly less sleep deprived and slightly less shambolic.
Thanks for listening to this week's Two Tiers Deep. If you like to find me, Chloe Hill, you can find myself on Instagram with a new Instagram page covering this podcast at 2 Tiers Deep CH. Or I'll pass you over Rosa to find herself at
Rosa Talks Ball. Or if you have any questions, you can contact us on rosatalksball@gmail.com. And please don't hesitate to get in touch.